That was it. Thank you for listening. Thank you. We'll just play some random music now, and you can simply freestyle to it whenever you're ready. Freestyle? Freestyling? What do? I can barely dance to a choreographed song. Stop right there. Do you guys even know why Eileen is struggling? Well, it's a good thing you guys have me because I'll tell you 4 very important tips when it comes to freestyling. And the last one is honestly the biggest mistake I always see with my Patreon members, just in general, so definitely stick till there. Firstly, I really want to apologize for the terrible audio because I am literally editing this on a plane. However, if you guys do want some examples of audition experiences and me freestyling, then I really recommend you check out these videos within my playlist because initially I really had no idea about freestyling. I kind of jumped right into it, but I'm sure that a lot of those things will help you out because I also share some freestyling tips on there as well. I'll link it down below. Now for you guys who aren't really familiar with freestyling, I'll give you guys a nice overview of everything. Now freestyling is generally for intermediate to advanced dancers, and freestyling is always with random music that you aren't familiar with. So companies will play these random songs and ask you to dance. And these tend to be more so pop songs, like American pop songs rather than K-pop songs. However, they do sometimes use old K-pop songs. So maybe like 2000s K-pop. Now we might be asking, when is freestyling actually used? So a lot of companies use freestyling as their first round when it comes to the dancing category. However, a lot of companies use this for the second round when you choose to dance and you have to freestyle to a random song. And this applies for both offline and for Zoom auditions. Like the FNC I just visited a few weeks ago, that one was a freestyling dance. Now let's get into the tips. So firstly, have a signature move that you can always use. So I did write a list of signature moves that you can use. However, this is not limited to just these. You can choose whatever moves you feel comfortable in and you just think that your body looks pretty good doing. So these could be body rolls, body waves, popping, locking, voguing, whatever that may be. Make sure it's very you and you're very familiar with it. And one thing to make note of is that these should also be in K-pop style, which means you see these often in K-pop. So voguing is a little less familiar. However, voguing is still coming into K-pop, and K-pop voguing is much more easier than actual voguing. So make sure you actually note these things before you use them as your signature move, because you want them to apply to K-pop as well. Remember, you're auditioning to be a K-pop idol. So how do you get yourself familiar with these moves? How do you make them yours? So make sure you actually incorporate these signature moves when it comes to warming up right before you actually get into dancing. So this way your brain is kind of familiar with it, and when your brain shuts down because you're nervous, happens more often than not, then you will kind of remember that because your body muscles, it remembers. And the second tip is to reuse some moves within choreographies. Now I don't mean blatantly copying that entire choreo, but taking one move from it, it isn't that noticeable. And make sure this is kind of like a general dance move that you see quite often within K-pop choreographies. Now for this, you kind of do need a strong knowledge of past choreographies because you need to apply that to the freestyle dance. You can't just plop that into nowhere, but you also need to work with the dance in order to fit that choreography into the song that you just heard. Now this is why I did say intermediate to advanced dancers are usually doing freestyle moves, because it's not just following what you learned. Like let's say you're a beginner and you still need to freestyle or you want to freestyle, then just practice a lot, because freestyling is just like anything else. You need to practice it in order to make yourself familiar to it. So that way you know when to use your signature moves. So what I like to do is play random pop music and I just turn it on and kind of shuffle between songs to see if I like an upbeat one, because usually they will be upbeat songs. I play it and then I just dance to it, record myself, see what I like, see what I don't like, and then kind of learn from there. That's what I did to prepare for the SM auditions, but really that was just kind of like a short-term thing, but you can definitely do it more seriously. And when you're doing this, make sure it's not too popular so that you are actually familiar with some of the songs, because that does give you an advantage of knowing what lyric is next and kind of being familiar with the beat as well. So try to use songs that you aren't really knowledge about. And the third thing is to connect to the song and its concept. So once you start to hear the music, you'll know, or you'll kind of know the idea of what kind of vibe the song is supposed to be. And if you know the song already, as I said, you are a step ahead because you know what that vibe is already. You kind of know what kind of moves you're going to use. And this part is very important because half of dancing, in my opinion, is stage presence. Even if your dancing is honestly horrible, if you have great facial expressions, it's still good. Like, let's say you're 50% at dancing, but your facial expressions are just out of this world. You could even get like, I don't know, 75, 80%. Now, this is just like a rough estimation, and there's really no percentage when it comes to K-pop, but that's just kind of throwing out there to see that stage presence is important. So one more thing to add to your homework list. When you're practicing freestyling, you also want to practice your facial expressions and how to match your face onto the concept. So a lot of the times, as I said, these songs are going to be more so upbeat songs. So make sure you're smiling good when you're dancing always. And that becomes a habit. Like, let's say you're blank. Like, let's say you're just always making a blank expression when you're dancing because you're like, oh, when it comes to the actual thing, I'll actually put expressions. No, because your face will be just used to being blank and not really using the best of your expressions. So really, you want to put that when you're practicing as well. It's hard, I know, but you've got to apply these things if you do want to become a great dancer. And now we're getting into the final tip, the fourth one. Use all of your body, you guys. Like, let's say you're just doing a basic arm wave when it comes to your freestyling, but you're only focusing on that most of the time, right? However, you want to train yourself to think about your other limbs too. So like, what are your legs doing? Are you just kind of just standing there and doing the arm wave? Because no, that will not look good when it comes to freestyling. You want to use all of your limbs at all times, basically. Like, let's remember, we're not filming a TikTok video here. We're not going to just use our arms and our hands. And let's remember, we're not tap dancing here either. We're not just going to use our legs. We're going to use both of them like a diverse choreography should. And let's say you're only using one limb, or two limbs, I guess, like if you count these as two. But let's say you're only using that, only your arms, then a lot of the time you're going to hear that your dancing looks boring. It's really nothing much. It doesn't look too difficult. Do you even have talent? You know, it goes on. Overall, it will just look empty if you don't have power for both legs and arms. You know, I really do wish I had a time machine and we would go back to Eileen's days when she was auditioning. However, she didn't have Irene back then. There was no Lovey Irene back then. So yeah, you guys are in luck. But that's okay, because eventually she got into LI Entertainment and her success began. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!